Welcome back to another episode of All or Not According to Jack, with your host, Jack Toledano. Looking behind me, seeing the Judas Priest logo, should tell you that tonight's topic is going to be Judas Priest related. So let's get right into it. So we're actually going to have something of a positive rant tonight. Uh, Reason being, as you may have seen from a lot of pictures and a lot of short videos on social media, be it Facebook and YouTube. Ugh, a little tickle in my chest, but I'll get through that. So you may have seen in social media, particularly Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, that Judas Priest and several others were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last weekend. So, they HBO, who carries it normally, they haven't put it out yet, but the people in the audience with their phones and cameras, they took video and a lot of video of the screen, the back screen, and put it up on Facebook, no, on YouTube mainly, and I got to see most of it, and it was quite cool. So this positive rant is because going back several months, I think it was earlier this year when they announced they had the final voting and Judas Priest was a contender, but they didn't make it. But then within a day or two after that, they announced that yes, they did make it because they started a new category called the Musical Excellence category. So Judas Priest made it under that title. Now the thing is, so you had, I guess, the Eurythmics, Pat Benatar, Dolly Parton, I guess Eminem, I think, maybe, but no Judas Priest. But they made it under musical excellence. So one way of looking at it is that, okay, so Dolly Parton, Eurythmics, Pat Benatar, Eminem, they didn't make it under musical excellence. So are they saying that Judas Priest is more superior musically? It's the way I would take it. So what else? So basically the format, and you know what? So a lot of people were pissed off that they didn't make it the conventional way, but you know what? Last weekend, uh, they were given like a full half an hour, and we're going to go through the format. But you know what? It felt pretty real to me. So let's go through it. So they had Alice Cooper was there. He did like a 5-minute introduction of Priest to talk about them, and very, very nicely done. Ironically, I saw Priest and Alice Cooper together back in 1991, August of 91. Great concert. So then they did, they went, so then, the back screen had a 5-minute history of the band for, everybody, for the benefit of the whole audience watching. So that was pretty cool. So then the band got up there, played for 9 minutes. So playing, first of all, the songs. So you had Got Another Thing Coming, Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight, possibly Priest's most famous songs. So playing on stage, of course, you had Rob Halford, Glenn Tipton, KK Downing, Richie Faulkner, Ian Hill. So that's either singers or personnel holding stringed instruments. But then behind the drum kits, you had both. Not only did you have Scott Travis, but you also had what the heck's his name? Shit. did it again. I forgot somebody. So second drummer, Les Binks. So basically everybody, with the exception of Richie Faulkner, that was on stage was inducted. So let's read through them again. Rob, Glenn, KK, Ian, and then you had Scott Travis, Les Binks, and then Dave Holland was also inducted, but unfortunately, David passed away a few years ago. And there was some, controversy about saying that he molested some underage people, but from what I understand, he was cleared and exonerated of that. So, we got to give the poor guy his due and his respect. And KK did mention him during his, well, actually, so they did their 8-9 minutes on stage performing. Then they put their instruments down. Alice Cooper handed out trophies to each one of them, and they got, everybody got to speak, got to give a short acceptance speech of maybe a minute or two. That lasted about 8 or 9 minutes, and Rob, of course, spoke last. I kind of felt bad for Glenn because, with his Parkinson's, his speech is a little slowed, but great to see, that he was there and he got the award, and that body of work in large part is thanks to Glenn. So congratulations to all of you guys. What else can we talk about? Okay, so now let's talk about some of the pictures that I collected to put up. So, all right, so I'm gonna turn my body around a little bit. So right next to me by my left shoulder, my right shoulder, sorry, are the guys posing in front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame backdrop there. You have Ian, you have KK, Rob, you have Scott, Les Binks, and of course Glenn. So above my head, you see them performing. You see KK and Richie right next to each other. Two blonde bookends, both playing flying V's. Rob with his Hellbent for Leather hat. Then you have Glenn right above my head, and then you have kind of behind Glenn, you have Ian, and nailed to the stage in that same spot like he always is. So then, of course, to this way, that way. Upper, you see Rob and KK. I guess Rob had no problem posing with KK, as did Richie Faulkner, which was nice, but I couldn't help but notice that KK and Glenn had no interaction whatsoever, but we'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. And then, of course, there's my bottom right is Rob interacting with Dolly Parton. We'll get to that too. So now that we've discussed the pics, we're going to do a little Q&A so reading through some of the the videos that were put up on YouTube and some of the things that were put up on Facebook, the threads. You got a lot of people commenting, either congratulating Priest or asking a lot of questions. And I'm telling you, asking the same questions over and over and over. So let's go through a few of these questions. So first one is, oh, where's Ripper? So of course they're referring to Tim Ripper Owens, who was the Priest singer for 2 albums in the late 90s, early 2000s. Of course, I'm talking about Jugulator and what's the other album? Demolition. That's it. So Jugulator, I think, was a great freaking album. Demolition, not so much. But the way it works, and you have to understand this. So when a band gets inducted, generally what they do is they're looking at the band's history and who made this helped this band establish themselves, and or who helped them made a significant contribution to this band. So in this case, Judas Priest. So no brainer. Rob Halford, KK Downing, Glenn Tipton, Ian Hill. So they formed the core for many years. So from the mid 70s to basically 2008, 2009, when KK finally said sayonara. So then you have Les Binks. He was with the band when they were at a significant period, when they first started to turn things around. They had just signed maybe a year or so ago with Columbia. They made Stained Class and Hellbent for Leather and that live album, Unleashed in the East. All of those were major building blocks to Priest becoming, the major juggernaut that they eventually would become. Of course, Les Binks left because he felt slighted by the management, which I agree with him. They didn't want to pay him for his participation of the live recordings of Unleashed in the East. I mean, that's total freaking BS. How do you do that? So he left. And, in hindsight, I think maybe that was their way of forcing him out or getting him to quit, because then they brought in Dave Holland. He made a major contribution. He was with them from British Steel through Ram It Down, although that was controversial because he was pissed because they were using a drum machine a lot on that album. But anyway, the Judas Priest's first Renaissance period was in the 80s, and he was there. So there you go. He was at it. So then from 1990 on, they brought in Scott Travis. I mean, for me at least, I think he's the best drummer that Priest's had. Double bass, lightning fast, great drummer. What can I say? So that's question number one. So Ripper, so he was there for, again, Jugulator and Demolition. He did not, I think he's a great vocalist, but he really didn't make a major contribution. He contributed to one album and he did keep them going, but you know what? If Halford had left and they never got another singer and Halford came back, I don't think anybody would have been any the wiser. Although I do enjoy, giving Jugulator a spin every now and again, but not a major contributor. We have to be honest with each other. So then second question, why isn't Richie Faulkner, why didn't he get a trophy? I mean, come on, the guy, don't get me wrong, he is a great guitar player, and I think he's a better guitar player than KK Downing. But you know what? Again, I don't think he really made a major contribution. He joined during Redeemer of Souls, but you know what? They could have hired maybe 40, 50 other guitarists. He was probably the best, better than those other 49 that I'm contemplating that they gave a tryout to. But you know what? If he didn't join, they probably could have been almost as good with the second, third, or fourth choice. So they were already well established, so no reason to induct him. That's just the way it goes. So next question, and I'm going to pause for a second. All right, I'm back. So you'll see in a minute why I had to pause. But so my third question is, so why isn't KK back in the band? Uh, and as I mentioned, why are Glenn and KK avoiding each other in this whole process, which I couldn't help but notice? Well, there's two very good reasons for it. So number one, as some of you may know, uh, when KK left the band, he wrote a very scathing letter to the band stating about what he said were 20 reasons why he quit. He thought that the band wasn't up to standard anymore. He thought that, Glenn basically dominated the songwriting sessions and dominated the lead breaks and whatnot. What else did he say? And that Glenn was drinking beer, before and during the concerts, and that KK was carrying the band. So that's number one. Number two, some of you may have bought this book. Good book, by the way. KK Downing, Heavy Duty, Days and Nights in Judas Priest. It, looking at it, how many pages was it? About 275. This is the back, by the way, in case you're wondering. So in this book, aside from talking about, his youth and how he became, how he came to pick up the guitar and how he was friends with Ian Hill and how they formed the band, or rather how they joined forces with Alan Atkins to change their name and use the Judas Priest name to carry on. And, and there's, in the middle section, there's some nice pictures in here, but basically, he said some very scathing things about Glenn, about how Glenn was, what did he say? He said that things were always done on Glenn's terms. Basically, Glenn insinuating that Glenn's a narcissist, that he got the lion's share of the lead breaks. He got the lion's share of the songwriting until KK forced him to make it a 3-person partnership, beginning with British Steel. All things of that nature. And, like I said, the fact that he was drinking on stage and that they were subpar towards the end. People are saying, oh, why don't they put their big boy pants on and get back together and let bygones be bygones. Let me explain something to you people. I've had friends in my lifetime, and a couple times I felt betrayed by certain friends. When there has been major betrayal, sometimes you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot, how would you say, reconcile with certain people. Certain people that, I'm not saying, I wasn't there, so I don't know if that was really the case, that Glenn was, how would you say, a narcissist. Maybe Glenn was just looking out for the band. Maybe, and I can see it for myself. Glenn and Richie are better guitar players than KK. KK's a good guitar player, but I don't believe he is to their caliber. He is just not as technically sound as they are. To me, he's more like an Ace Frehley or a Joe Walsh, where they play more spontaneous. They're good, but they're a little more spontaneous, and with a little more feedback and distortion and stuff like that. But Glenn, on the other hand, said that there were times where, and Glenn was the master producer of the band, let's face it. He said that there were times where he would have to basically doctor or improve KK's lead breaks to make them worthwhile to put on the album. So what does that tell you? I think that there's some jealousy and some green-eyed monster rolled in there. That maybe KK. It's a tough pill to swallow. That there's somebody in this band that's actually better than I am. And maybe that's why they don't want him back after all the things that he said. And now it's come out that Glenn has Parkinson's, and basically they've circled the wagons around Glenn. I can't say I blame them. Unless somebody has really faced betrayal by friends in the past, where they just, what, you just gotta let go and let God. You can't be friends with this person anymore. They're just never gonna understand. But hopefully I explained it. So that's that. So the last thing, and this is the reason that I'm re-recording this goddamn episode. I had put together an episode A. This is the second take. Was dummy me. I forgot to talk about the picture to the right of my shoulder, Rob and Dolly. So earlier tonight, I like to needle my wife Susan every once in a while. She's a country music fan, so I thought I would put this picture up on her wall and have a little fun with it. And she loves Dolly Parton. She loves country music. What she hates is Rob Halford and Judas Priest. So what better to do to get under her skin than put a picture together of these two together? And of course sing the song, islands in the stream, that is what we are, no more in between, how did we be wrong? Oh man, I can't sing. Better that I leave it to the likes of Dolly Parton and Rob Halford. But in any event, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. This has been a positive rant. You know what? Like I said earlier, the events of last weekend with 30 minutes of Judas Priest being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame almost makes you forget the fact that they've been done a slight injustice. But you know what? My wife and I, Susan and I, and one of my nieces, we were talking about possibly going to Western New York to go to the I Love Lucy Museum. And what's 2 hours away from the I Love Lucy Museum but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? So now, the way things have gone, I would pay my entrance fee to walk into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, wear my Defenders of the Faith shirt proudly, and go check it out and let everybody know that I am defending the faith of Judas fucking Priest. This is Jack Toledano, speaking for all and none according to Jack. Please subscribe. Please help me get over 500. Please tell your friends to subscribe. Help me out. I am this freaking close. And I would love to get there before my my 1 year anniversary of the show on December 15th. So thank you and happy trails. Speak to you soon. Bye.